Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Um, I thought that, I would kind of introduce my subject for the uh, intensive tonight. And what better way to start that than with the words of Suzuki Roshi um, from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And forgive me if I cover my face because I am that blind, excuse me. If you want to understand Buddhism, it is necessary for you to forget all about your preconceived. Let me start again. I can't see. I can see. Is there another light? Sorry. If you want to understand Buddhism, it is necessary for you to forget all about your preconceived ideas. To begin with, you must give up the idea of substantiality of existence. The usual view of life is firmly rooted in the idea of existence. For most people, everything exists. They think whatever they see and whatever they hear exist. Of course, the bird we hear and see exists. It exists, but what I mean by that may not be what you mean. The Buddhist understanding of life includes existence and non-existence. The bird both exists and does not exist at the same time. We say that a view of life based on existence alone is heretical. If you take things too seriously, as if they existed substantially or permanently, you are called a heretic. Most people may be heretics. Okay. Thank you. So addressing all my fellow heretics out there. This is a very, seems the way Suzuki Roshi expresses it, seems simple enough. It exists and it doesn't exist, right? Makes a whole lot of sense. And in a way, I can hold that in my mind and intellectualize it and kind of understand it on a very surface level. But it's obvious in my movement in this world that I don't understand that at all. If I go up to someone or someone comes up to me and they say, "You are nothing," you know, I might get a good hard slap for that. Or I might make someone hurt someone in saying that. Even though in the way I kind of mean it, I want to mean it, it's not a insult. It's simply the reality. It's the reality of our true nature. It's very hard to see myself as nothing but part of the fabric of the universe. And that's the basic delusion. This is in a way, I always kind of say, and people are going to get tired of me saying this, that the first teaching of the Buddha just about sums it all up, you know, not for all of us because, we're human beings and we have to take it apart and make commentaries and analysis and, programs, on it. The truth that there is suffering, that the origin of that suffering is my delusion, my refusal to accept impermanence, my refusal to accept interdependence, my refusal to let go of this I, me, mine, and this you, not me. That there is a way beyond this delusion, this suffering that I create, an Eightfold Path. Somewhere in my reading, which I can't find it again, I do too much reading, too much searching, instead of whatever it is I think I'm supposed to do. Mika Bodhi says that the Buddha started with the most advanced teaching. Just because it's the first teaching, that's not, Buddhist 101. It's the finest, most important, most exact part of the teaching. And as I said, everything else that comes after is explanation and commentary and argument sometimes. Finding the words for something that, in a sense, is wordless. The Eightfold Path as a recipe for removing delusion seems simple, until you try to figure out what right or wholesome means in any context, because it's so complicated. It is and it isn't. It's so it's complicated because I make it complicated because of my judgments and my ideas, my constructs that get in the way of actually following the path. It's very, I always pick something that's ridiculous and ridiculously hard to talk about. I don't know why, but I do so because it's what I'm working on, what I'm always working on, trying to get past these ideas of mine, and trying not to layer this with more ideas. But here we go. To be nothing is a whole, I want to say possibility. It's a whole opening of possibility, a whole opening of being. There is, where do I start? There is no way to predict or to understand. Well, I don't want to use that word either. There is no way to really know who I am. When I say I want to know who I am, as I said one time, once long ago when I was about 20, I just need to know who I really am. You know, and I don't want to make fun of that because when you're 20 or 16, I was, 20 going on 16, I admit that. 20 going on 12 maybe. I didn't know what that meant. And to say it now, I don't know what that means either. And that's all right, because knowing is not the point. Knowing who I am, it doesn't matter. At 20, looking back, well, let's go back even further, because I wasn't yet 20 when I first started this journey of mine. I think I was about 16 or 17, sitting in an auditorium in a religion class, presentation done by, my religion professor, where he invited an Indian man in a white shirt, whose name I don't remember, whose tradition I don't even recall. I was paying so much attention in class. And we sat in an auditorium, and this Indian man with an accent that I was not at all, used to hearing. So most of what he said, I didn't really understand out of, just not having the experience and being ignorant of, other people, because this, way back in the 80s. And, I'm from, Queens, and my understanding of the world was very limited. You can be provincial even in New York City. And so I'm sitting in the auditorium and I'm listening to this sing-song, of this man explaining to us meditation. And one word he said that I could really, I understood some of what he said, but just breathe, He said it with that beautiful kind of accent, breathe, light, sing-songy voice. Close your eyes, sit still, breathe. And I did. And the room, this giant room, got quiet. And something touched me, or I touched something, don't know, either way. And that was my first experience of meditation. Breathe. When I think about it, that little instruction, breathe. Breathing is the least this body mind does. It's the basic. It's the first thing that happens when we emerge from the womb. It's the last thing that happens when we go, when we disappear, die, move on, however you want me to say it. So basic. But when I got up from that seat, I had that little memory of that experience of just breathe. And the whole world, the chaos of life came back and just destroyed that moment. but the memory was there. That little experience that could have easily been forgotten, in the chaos of my life, stuck with me. And I went searching for it again and again, searching for that moment. Searching for a permanence of that feeling of of just, for a millisecond of just. And that's a delusion. I started with that little delusion that somehow it's out there somewhere. I don't know why I thought it was out there. I mean, it was just me in one seat. you know, all I had to do is. So in my search for that moment, somehow ended up doing Zen. In a sense, I'm a little more mature with a little bit more experience and reading all this stuff and being with people, who are also working on this. And understanding that that little millisecond of freedom is not, I don't have to cross the country to get it. I don't have to cross the country to know it. And it's not something that I can hold on to and grasp, but it is something that is always accessible to me if I let go, if I understand, or if I can really get to an understanding that just of that nothing. Zazen intrigued me because in sitting Zazen, in the words that, that were being, tossed around the room by my um, fellow practitioners in various rooms throughout my life, full of cushions and people, beings seeking freedom. The dropping of body and mind, that freedom, that just, we say shikantaza, just sitting, just sitting. There's nothing else, nothing here. Just letting go of all of these ideas, of this idea of who I am. Opens everything. Allows me to not skip the pain of life, old age, suffering, death, confusion, but to understand that that is not. It's not that it's not real. It's not reality. And that sounds crazy because we all know that in living life, um, these obstacles, quote unquote, rise up. And I try to avoid them because pain is, pain. But that's it. Pain is just pain. I don't have to do anything with it. All I have to do is just, because the reality is that the moment I start struggling, the moment I start suffering, yeah, I get further and further away from the true nature of this life. And I push everything that is supporting me, you know, in this fabric of existence, we are the warp and weft of this fabric that holds it all together. And the moment I try to run, you know, and try to remove myself from that weave because of pain or trying to avoid what is, I just cause more suffering for myself and others. So I can just, if I can just let that nothing be. It's really hard to talk about this. But this is what I'm working on. When I tell myself that I am nothing, you know, the delusion pops up. You know, I am nothing. No, that's not it. It's not this wonderful, magical nothingness of, I'm still a part of this world, part of this weave, this interdependence that we're all kind of struggling with. This idea that my existence depends on the existence or uh, I share it with the myriad beings, most of whom I can't even see, and that I affect all those myriad beings with my movements and struggle and delusion. I don't want to believe that. I just want to be me. I just want to be. So that's what, I'm trying to talk about in this intensive. That conundrum, that struggle of not really understanding the nature, my true nature, that is nothing. And wanting to really be free of these ideas of who I am. Intellectually, I know that the girl sitting in the auditorium all those years ago, in touching that little bit of freedom, somehow the trajectory of my life could not have been planned. This has nothing to do with what that woman, girl thought 30 years ago. Maybe not 30, more than that. Wow. And nothing in the ideas that I had at that time of what my existence would be and who I was would have told me that I'd be sitting here today. Nothing that could have predicted that. And looking on that sort of how that became, how I became, and what I'm still becoming. I can't predict what I'll be tomorrow. And there's a great freedom in that, sort of a great idea of freedom in that. But to really feel that freedom here and know that that's okay. You know, it's a life full of plans and a life full of ideas and a life full of, programs and still, none of which panned out, not exactly the way, you know, I planned it. um, None of which, and I still have that expectation. I still can't let go and just let it be and just. I was trying to start to talk about Zazen for me, but the thing about Zazen, the just sitting, um, go back to Suzuki Roshi, there's a video that I can't find right now either. And maybe they don't exist. Maybe I made this all up. Okay, and that could be possible. Where he describes sitting in the zendo and hearing a bird outside. I watched that video a lot. I don't know why I can't find it. But there's this moment, and the yoga kara, which I really have a hard time with, is kind of addressing. He's kind of addressing the yoga kara. There's that millisecond, that moment before when the bird sings, where it's just, it's not even bird, where it's just existence. It's just not even me, but there's no separation between that song and the body mind that's sitting here. There are moments in Zazen when the body and mind have dropped, where there's no definition of me here. There's no separation. between me, quote me, I, and the rest of existence. And that's the just of the just sitting. It's not even something that that I can point to, but it's just a little glimpse, a little taste, a little millisecond of when I know that reality, that absolute reality. And I think that's what brings us all back to Zazen for all these years, as painful as legs get, as boring as it can get, as tedious as it is to, you know, look at a wall for hours a day. There's an inkling there that the Buddha connected us to and that we're still working with. In a sense, be nothing is kind of a little joke. A little snide sort of joke. Be nothing. But, and the reason why it's a joke is because it's kind of a silly negation, but it's not negative at all. It's the delusion that makes it negative. The delusion that almost that it can't, we can't do this. But we do it all the time. So I don't know how long I've been talking. I can go on forever and you still won't know what I'm talking about. And I probably won't either. But let me see one more thing. There's what really I think comes up, you know, for me. I'm calling what we like to call, or what somebody called, enlightenment, liberation. Words are hard. I'm calling it liberation because enlightenment for me is kind of keeps me in this kind of intellectual space, to be enlightened, to see and know. And I know that's not what people are trying to say. But in that look into my own, situation, I just want to be free of birth and death and suffering in the way that Gautama was free from birth and death and suffering. They're not things I can run away from, but they're things that I can be with and allow as part of the nature of being a human being or living being on this earth that arises and dies. that gets old, that's born, that gets old, ages, gets sick, and dies. And know that that is perfect. That is the perfect existence, to arise and fall without suffering. Because the suffering, the pain and the aging and the death is not the suffering. It's what I do with it and my struggle to not accept my own impermanence, my own dependence on all of us, my own inseparable nature from the fabric of this universe. And that does not at all completely express what I want to express, but bear with me. I don't know where we are now. I know I'm leaving some space for discussion, right? Okay, well, I did it again. I'm sorry. You just really have to stop me. Okay. Is there anyone that really needs to say something or ask something or refute me, whatever you want to do? Just don't throw anything.
We have space for maybe one question or comment if anyone wants to offer. You could wait for the microphone.
I one time had a time where I was kind of confronting the essence of meditation, and I went on a long walk in Auburn, Washington, to the Auburn River, and there was a moment, I felt called to this tree as I sat under the tree, and the first thing I did was, sat upright, but then I found there was discomfort, and so I just got more and more relaxed and ended up laying down under the tree. And I found that it wasn't so much the posture that was important. It was sort of it was like finding the easiness that comes naturally from yourself.
Mm.
And when I was doing this, I naturally entered a meditation to sort of look for to look for where am I, in all of this. And I went through the different steps, outward to inward. And I had this moment where I realized I am nothing. But then from that realization, it was like I was connected to the whole universe, and my self was expanded outward forever.
Mm.
And there was a light that burst from the tree, actually. And it told me something. And after that, I could approach the world way differently. Which, so my comment is, all this about nothingness, somethingness, there is a light and it can reach you, and your light can reach the world. So that's it.
Sounds like a beautiful experience.
Absolutely.
Thing is to not hold on to that experience, because that's what I tried to do, was hold on to a little bit of a second of open freedom, and ended up tying myself up in all kinds of knots, struggling again. The practice is to, for every moment, not in seeking, but in being that. And that's what we're practicing to do. That's why it's called practice. So I'm glad you had that experience. And there'll be others. just make the effort. Again, I'm sorry because I got, mouth issues. Because my brain just, I think because I don't have confidence in my words anymore somehow. I wish I could all just, what do you call that? When you tell, yeah, yeah, we can all do the Vulcan mind meld and we can all know what we're trying to say. But thank you very much for your patience and for listening to me. And I'll try to my best next time.